And that's why I care. That's why this has got to end. And by the way, yes, they do. And the children of Israel matter. And the children of Israel matter, which has not come out of your mouth.
Having now covered this issue for almost a month straight, I could feel every moment of this clip. So I'm going to show you here 23-year-old Democratic voter Atong Chan, who during a town hall for Democratic candidate for president, Dean Phillips, who is challenging Joe Biden, apparently. He's a sitting House Democrat, yet holds all the same positions as Joe Biden does. Not really sure why he's challenging him while doing nothing different. But a great example of that is his position here on a ceasefire. So before I even get to this clip, and there's two parts to it, I just want to give you just a base understanding of where the majority of people currently are on this issue of a ceasefire. So this from Data for Progress. Voters across party lines agree that the U.S. should call for a ceasefire and de-escalation of violence in Gaza. So they asked, this is why I love Data for Progress. They really give, when it comes to polling questions, they give the full context so people really understand what they're answering. So they asked here, to what extent do you agree or disagree with the following statement? Quote, the U.S. should call for a ceasefire and a de-escalation of violence in Gaza. The U.S. should leverage its close diplomatic relationship with Israel to prevent further violence and civilian deaths. And a majority of everybody, like not just all voters, agree at 66% here with a plus 41. But of course, all Democrats, 80%, independents, 57%, even a majority of Republicans at 56% support a ceasefire. Yet the entirety of the GOP does not. The vast majority of Democrats don't, minus a few like Cori Bush, Rashida Tlaib, AOC, and a handful of others. But here is Dean Phillips being asked about this. And you're going to see it gets pretty heated here. And it gets even a little more heated in the second clip, but check this out.
I don't understand how Hamas can be eradicated while we're watching thousands of children die. And then you can continue to say that without calling for a ceasefire. Over 3,000 children have died. Most of the casualties in Gaza right now are children and women. And so by you saying all that makes me think that it's a very flagrant way of you saying that you don't care that their lives matter. And that's my opinion. But it feels very disingenuous what you said. And I personally I'm willing to listen to you. Hopefully you can change your mind. Or maybe
change my mind about what?
Just your position on Palestine. I would want you to call for a ceasefire. You haven't even been able to say the word tonight.
I'm calling for the elimination of a terrorist organization that just butchered 1,900 Israelis, including babies and children. And I'm also... Okay. I think it is sickening. I am sickened and disgusted, and I just told you... I am calling out the Israeli government. I'm calling...
They're U.S. bombs. That's the fucking problem. Thank you.
Look at... No. That's this. You guys... This is what America needs to do more of. Face to face instead of through screens. Yeah, no, that's, and I don't, no apology necessary. I think what you just said is true, right? Remember, no, hey, yeah. Hey, okay, everybody, look at all I ask is just kindness and respect to one another, all of us. I respect you.
I respect you, as long as you aren't Palestinian, in which case, no ceasefire. Let's allow the Israeli government, with the backing of all of the Western powers, to continue bombing civilians in Gaza. They're talking about a ceasefire. These aren't even calls about ending the occupation, ending the apartheid, ending the blockade. It's just, hey, stop dropping bombs on civilians in Gaza. And you can't even get Democrats, a majority of Democrats, to agree to that. Why is Dean Phillips running for president? Like, what? This has to be purely a selfish a selfish run, like just a way to get himself on television in the headlines. Maybe he has a book coming out. If you're not even going to have a different position on anything from Joe Biden, why do you exist? Why do you bother doing any of this? So I'm going to get to the next clip in a second here, because it gets, as I said, gets more heated. And I really like watching these clips. I applaud her name again, Atong Chan, for doing this. I felt every moment of that, because this is the kind of brick wall people are up against. It's like talking to some of these people, like talking to a brick wall, because it is so clear what is going on. And I've broken down in so many other videos. If you want, more details of the entire conflict, please go watch my videos over the past month. But it is so clear once you understand the power imbalance, once you understand the history, that this is not debatable. And I will get to why the Dean Phillips here is not, at least partially why he's not in support of a ceasefire, but a little more from his exchange here. So this happened before the clip began. This is from the Washington Post. Phillips repeatedly invoked his multiple visits to Israel in the past year and his role as the ranking Democrat on the Foreign Affairs Subcommittee focused on the Middle East, and told Chan, quote, "You and I are the same," though he said he was horrified and disgusted when I see Palestinians slaughtered, and denounced Hamas as an enemy of both Israel and Palestinians. He did not answer her follow-up questions about why he is not calling for a ceasefire. So, a lot of trips to Israel, apparently. Now, were these trips to go and look at Gaza, the West Bank, see how Palestinians are being oppressed in a variety of ways? No, of course not. These were trips with leader Hakeem Jeffries to visit with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And this is while, I'll get to what was going on at the time, but Hakeem Jeffries here, this is from 2 months ago, under fire for Israel trip sponsored by a lobbyist group. So, as I discussed at the end of my last video, this goes to the heart of the issue. Is you have a ton of money pouring in from these far right-wing pro-Israel groups they're far right-wing because they're supporting apartheid. They're supporting the oppression of Palestinians. A lot of money pouring in from these groups to, well, both parties, of course, but the Democratic Party that should know better if they're a party that actually cares about human rights, which clearly, based on their position on this issue, they do not. But this goes to these tours take place, these trips take place, they're all expenses paid. They're toured around and they're given a bunch of propaganda about the far right-wing Israeli government to make it seem like they're not so far right-wing, when in reality it is a far right-wing government oppressing Palestinians. And this was all going on while, even Joe Biden called this one out. So, a dark day for Israeli democracy. U.S. Jewish groups denounced Netanyahu's judicial overhaul. So, these guys are taking these trips while Netanyahu is reimagining the judicial system to give himself more power. And you may remember this, like there were protests in the streets in Israel against Netanyahu or over this happening. Of course, as said here, all these groups coming out against it. You even had the White House, even though it was limited criticism, because they can't say too many bad things about Benjamin Netanyahu, but limited criticism to calling the outcome unfortunate. So this is the most you're going to get from Joe Biden. But this is still more than what you were seeing from someone like Dean Phillips or Hakeem Jeffries, who were taking these trips to Israel at the time to meet with Netanyahu as he is taking more power for himself in the country. Let me get to the last part of that clip.
I'm sorry? I'm being I what? I gaslit, really. I don't. Okay. Everybody, I respect you. Okay, embarrassing. And I care about every one of those lives, and I respect you. So let me answer your question about bombs and missiles. The bombs and missiles. Can I just, I'm trying to answer another person's question. Please. I'm calling for the elimination of a terrorist organization that will, can I, you're right. And that's why I care, that's why this has got to end. And by the way, yes, they do. And the children of Israel matter. And the children of Israel matter, which has not come out of your mouth.
This guy really just pulled an all lives matter argument. The reason why this woman's talking about the children in Gaza is because right now they are being killed to a higher degree than any conflict over the course of a year for the past 3 years. Do you want to see the actual imbalance here? Palestinian and Israeli children killed. These are the Palestinians down here. Barely see it. Israelis. This is the power imbalance at play, as you can see, has been at play for decades. There is no denying that Israeli children's lives matter. Of course they matter. That goes without saying, clearly, based on the numbers we are seeing. The reason why this woman is so passionate, why there are so many people calling for a ceasefire, is because of what is happening right now. Because of this insane number. That isn't even just, this is being enabled and supported by the US government. So, like, you know, if Dean Phillips was backing Hamas, was out there supporting the indiscriminate bombing of civilians in Israel, then, yeah, we would be calling him out for supporting the indiscriminate bombing of civilians in Israel, because he has the power, apparently, you know, in this theoretical scenario, where he is supporting Hamas in that. But that's not what's going on. What's actually going on is he is supporting a far right-wing Israeli government committing this. Again, talking to these people is like talking to a brick wall. This shit is so obvious that anyone even has to explain this to a sitting member of Congress is embarrassing. Speaking to reporters outside the event, Chan, again, the woman said that she supported Biden in the 2020 primary and general election, but doesn't think she can support him again, and that she's not considering supporting Phillips. I'm a black person. Sitting out would be one of the hardest things for me to ever do. There are people who died for my right to vote, Chan said through tears minutes later. I feel like I'm being put in a very precarious situation because I never want to disrespect my ancestors. I'm going to have to vote for somebody, and it's going to be hard because everyone who is running right now, they're all not people I would ever want to vote for. People need to really get that this is why Democrats lose elections, because there are people like this who would vote for them if they just fought for the right things. All she wants is for Democrats to recognize that Palestinians are humans. And we can't even get the Democratic Party to recognize that. Just a very basic thing. You can't get them to recognize these ongoing atrocities being committed by the Israeli government. This is why you're gonna lose people. And you're not like, she's not gonna go vote for Trump. That isn't the worry here. It's that they stay home. People will stay home because they don't feel motivated to vote for a party that is enabling all of this. They are currently in power. At least Biden is currently in power. And he has the same position that Dean Phillips does. And by the way, I didn't mention this. Worth mentioning, since this number is out of date by a few days. But altogether, Palestinian death toll is over 9,000. And the reason why this death toll keeps rising while Israeli death toll doesn't is because the Israeli death toll was based on that one attack. Hamas doesn't have an army. It doesn't have tanks, doesn't have planes. Yes, just to be clear, again, yes, Hamas committed a terrorist act by going after civilians. I hope that's obvious. I hope I don't have to mention that. The reason why this is being mentioned is because this is being backed by our governments. What is being committed here by the Israeli government is being backed by the US, Canada, the UK, and many others. Someone else. So this article, by the way, in Washington Post goes over the entire event. A bunch of people left because of that exchange, because of how Dean Phillips was unwilling to support a ceasefire. They just straight up were like, screw this guy. One of the people there, another woman sounded as if she might cry. Did I read this already? God, my brain at this point. If I didn't read this, here's me reading this now. Another woman sounded as if she might cry when she asked how killing Palestinians is making what happened to Israelis better, and if there were no other solutions to the conflict. Phillips again responded with a query, asking the two questioners for their ideas on how to fix the situation. He again returned to the idea that Israeli babies are also important, a stance none of the questioners disputed. I mean, you even have the Washington Post recognizing how stupid Dean's responses, or Phillips' responses. A few last things here. I just want to show you this. This is a rabbi during a recent Biden speech.
Mr. President, if you care about Jewish people, as a rabbi, I need you to call for a ceasefire right now. No.
This rabbi calling for a ceasefire and getting booed and hissed. Oh, she's being very rude. It's very mean. How dare she speak up for the lives of people that are being killed with the support of Joe Biden. A couple last things. So I'm not going to play this clip as well. There's too many clips. But this summarizes what happened here. So a question from a reporter, support among Arabs and Muslims, polls are showing that it's dropping significantly for Biden. So I've covered this in a previous video. That's true, especially in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Georgia, where those numbers really matter. The response from Karine Jean-Pierre here. I'm not going to get into every poll. One of the reasons that he, speaking of Biden, going out there into rural America to hear directly from Americans there. So sure, we may lose these Arabs, but guess what? We're going to get those Trump voters, right? It's just, I have to laugh because of how stupid this is. This is the same strategy that Democrats attempted in 2016. Oh, sure, we're going to lose people on the left. We're going to lose progressives. We're going to lose those Bernie supporters that almost defeated Hillary Clinton, came very close in 2016. We'll just ignore this massive chunk of the base because we're going to get these moderate Republicans. How'd that work out? Now, if you watch the clip, you could argue that that's not what she's arguing because she's acting like, oh, well, we don't pay attention to polls, but Biden is out there speaking to people. But again, who's he speaking to? What is he arguing for? What case is he making? This has to be one of the most soul-sucking jobs imaginable, to have to go out there every single day and defend whatever president it is, defend whatever stupid thing they've done, said, or position they hold. God, I would never in 1,000 years take that job for any money in the world. Last thing here is demand a ceasefire. So this is ceasefiretoday.com. There are various links here that you can email Congress, sign a petition, find a protest near you. There's a march on D.C. tomorrow. Call Congress. So there's a variety of ways to try and put some pressure on your government. You know, this is all we have. And I think it's beginning to work because you are really seeing a massive shift in public perception on this. We just recently saw the NDP in Canada come out to support a ceasefire after over 100,000 people signed a petition to push for that. So you are seeing some movement being made. Where we need to see the movement is with people that are in power. The NDP in Canada don't hold government right now. But it's very important to continue putting on that pressure regardless of where you are. This is, mostly for Americans here. But, Canada, the UK, other countries, it's very important to speak up and do it. If you're going to call your congressperson, actually, we did this on Leftist Mafia yesterday during the podcast. A few of us called their congresspeople, and a lot of them got the voicemail. but left a message kindly asking for a ceasefire. You know, especially when you're leaving a message, you don't want to come off like a raging lunatic. Like you want them to actually listen to the message. So there's a way to, you know, maybe a compliment sandwich, but a way to really make sure that your representatives understand that you will not support them unless, at the very least, they can support a ceasefire.